Hello, everyone, and welcome to Summit, a quick introduction. Our Summit customers have access to a lot of analytics that can be found clicking on the analytics lane here, and all of the lanes end up being laid out. You can change the order of the lanes that you see by just clicking on this and dragging it down. What you'll see is, first of all, one lane that is the top not yet released titles. These are the top titles that are selling currently across indie retailers. You can also apply a saved filter to narrow this focus. You can also adjust the number of titles that you want to see. Right now, I have this set on 50 with a minimum in hand of 0. If you wanted to see more, all you need to do is click on the down arrow and click on more, and it will tell you the pub date and what the stuff is that is currently selling well in the indie market. You can also switch this so that you can see what's circulating well at public libraries or what is perhaps selling well within the retailers within your own industry. I'm in Michigan, so perhaps maybe I would only want to see the top stuff that's currently selling with Great Lakes retailers. Once you make that adjustment, the lane will adjust. And then you can just look at each individual book. It will tell you which books that you already own that are, again, the top not yet released titles. It will also tell you those books that are not owned. So all you need to do is click on the part of the pie that you're interested in, and then you can go through and order those books to see what you might be missing. If you have a book, it doesn't look like it's showing as owned, you can click on We Have This, which will report that information to me. I will then take a look and see what might be happening. The next lane that we're going to look at is the most popular titles. These are the top titles, again, selling across indie titles in the last month. So this one was, the first one was titles that had not yet been released yet. These are the titles that have been released that are currently selling well within the indie market. There's a great feature here by clicking on the little email icon. You can create a report to send to yourself that will automatically send this information to you. So you can send it daily, weekly, or monthly, and you can tell it how many titles you want to include. So what you can do here is create some saved filters, apply the filter, click on the email icon, and then email that report to you. So you could basically have the most popular titles in, say, 4 or 5 genres, and that would email to you weekly or monthly, depending on what you decide. And again, making sure that the not owned is showing up. The catalog analysis lane is really a time saver. What you can do is you can take any title, any of the publisher's catalogs, and put it in here, and it will immediately look at that against what you own and what you don't own. Makes collection easier rather than you having to look up all the ISBNs. The other great thing about this is if you've saved some collections from one of the communities, I know I've shared a number of collections with the communities, you can actually take a look for those collections, and again, it will do all the work for you. So The Best Fiction for Young Adults, which is a collection that I created. All I have to do is look at that collection. It will immediately analyze that collection that I created to see which titles that are owned, how they're circulating, and which titles aren't owned. You can then make an evaluation on those titles that are not owned to see which ones you might want to add to your collection. The next lane is the location. I'm going to look at category performance first. So I'm just going to move this up. So category performance looks confusing, but basically what it's doing is it's looking at those various Dewey numbers in this case and seeing what's circulating well, what's maybe circulating not well. So using the categories of overstocked and understocked. Overstocked meaning you have a lot of titles, but they're not particularly circulating well. Understocked meaning you don't have very many titles, but they are, what titles you do have are circulating well. The numbers in the squares indicate the number of subjects that is represented by that. Red are those that are overstocked, and you might want to take a look at those. You can switch this also to include just BISAC, which I would actually recommend. You can also change the time frame. Right now I've got this for 3 months back. A reason I'm recommending BISAC is not all of the Dewey categories are sometimes applied to the individual titles, so BISAC might give you a little bit better data. So again, looking at overstocked versus understocked to see what might be happening. So if we look at the biography and autobiography in this particular case, it will pull down again and it will keep refining so that you can see exactly what's going on. So in the biography, it looks like composers and musician is definitely overstocked, whereas survivor, philosophers, and fashion look like they're really understocked. The nice thing about what this lane is doing is that it's now applied this temporary filter, but then if you have multiple branches, it's going to actually break that down by branch. So if we wanted to look at the literary section, literary biography, it's now added that to my filter up here. And it's now saying that actually South, East, West, and North are doing okay, but Maine is a little bit overstocked. So it's a way for you to be able to balance things between collections. Location comparison gives you an ability to move things from branch to branch. So again, Maine overstocked, South is neutral, but if you wanted to move titles from Maine to South, first you pick where you want to move the books to, and then you want to put here where you want to move the books from. So in this case, Maine. And I want to look at books that have a minimum on hand of 2 copies. And then once you apply this, it will do the analysis to tell you of those that are actually stale cool at Maine that aren't available at South. And then you can take a look at those about which ones you might want to shift over. The next really popular lane is the weeding profile. The weeding profile will only save the time. It does not save the subject filter that you put on. So I'm going to take off the temporary filter that I had done previously. And there are different criteria that are going to be applied to different sections of your collection. For example, computer science books, because the topic tends to get out of date very quickly, you might want to set smaller parameters than something like fiction, where books can sit on the shelf for a while. So in this example, the default is 24 months with no check-ins, checkouts, worn at least 25 checkouts, outdated 15 years since publication or 15 years in your ILS, and at least 1 copy on the shelf. You can change your default just by clicking this, and let's just say we want 36 months, which would be 3 years. Make sure you click on Save. We'll leave worn as alone, we'll leave outdated as it is, and at least 1 copy on the shelf. What we want to do now is to apply a saved filter. So if we go up here and say that we want to look in a particular section, you can create your own filters, or you can use the genre filters that we have. So say you want to look at the cooking category. By applying cooking, it's now going to apply that against all of these lanes. So you're going to see the top not yet released titles across the Great Lakes region. It's going to show you the most popular cooking titles across the Great Lakes region. It's going to pull down your category performance to the cooking region and location performance as well. So now you'll see that the weeding profile has been pushed against cooking. And what we can do is we can change the name of the profile if you want by just clicking this, and we'll say cooking weeding. Again, what it's going to save is this. It's not going to save the filter. So once I run, what it will do is pull up titles that are poorly circulating, that have 36 months with no check-ins or checkouts, those titles that are potentially worn with 25 checkouts, and those that are outdated. Since outdated doesn't really apply to cooking, you could actually take this and you can say, I want to ignore this from the analysis. Click on Save, click Run again, and it will pull up the list of titles that meet these criteria. So if I want to look at the poorly circulating, it's going to pull those up. And then you can actually go into Other Action, say Select All, and export to CSV file. You can then take this to the shelf and take a look at those books and see what might be happening. You'll just need to format the cell to make sure that it's a number with no decimal places. That'll give you your barcode. This gives you your call number. And that's pretty much it. So you can have various profiles for various things. Very easy to do. And the last is two things. There's a historical overview. So you can see, again, I've got the cooking filter applied. You can see what's happening with circulation in the last 3 months. Again, if you'd like to change this, you can certainly change this. It's looking at checkouts, the average holdings, and the annualized turn. So cookbooks are actually doing pretty well. And finally, a collection analysis. So basically what this does is it takes all of your cooking books and it tells you how they're circulating. The ones that are owned that are doing really well, the ones that are owned that are doing pretty well, and the ones that are actually kind of stale that you might want to take a look at for the possibility of checking them out. And then each title has more information. So for example, the American Girl Cooking, it's got 2 copies. And so far, the last time it was checked out was the 21st. But again, we go by shelf days. So it's 2 copies times the number of days since the last checkout. So in this case, it's 28. It'll also tell you what's happening with your peers. It's checked out in 9% of the libraries and it's on hand in 5%. If you'd like, you can actually do a peer comparison to a library, maybe in a different part of the country. So if you want to see another library that's like you can certainly do that. All you need to do is go up into your tools and go to selected peers, and then just look at the little location markers and select a title that you might want to add. And then you can just say select as peer and it will move it over to selected peers. Then if you want to apply that, all you need to do is click on this little cog button and just select your peer. So if you wanted to compare yourself to Shasta Public Libraries, all you would need to do is click on that and it will look at unique titles at Shasta that have at least 1 copy on hand that you don't own. And it's as simple as that. I hope you found this useful. That's just a brief introduction to the various parts of the summit, but you can see just how much information that we give you that will help you with your collection development. Thank you and have a great day.